Hi guys, today is the 19th of November 2019 at 55 minutes past 9 in the evening over here in the UK. I'm making this video again because a lot of you are complaining that you can't hear what I'm saying or the audio is basically crap. I would agree the audio is not great, but when I listen to it back I can hear every word clearly. Maybe that's because I know my own voice and can hear myself clearly. Some others have said they can hear it clearly, but I'm making it again for those of you who can't. So here we go. Basically, the video was a warning about a potential biological, chemical, nuclear terrorist attack potentially taking place at the White House or Parliament over here in the UK, which is the Westminster building, I believe. Westminster Palace, maybe? No, not Palace, but Westminster Abbey, I think it is. I should know. I live over here, but there you go. But I also had a second thought after I had uploaded the video, which was the Buckingham Palace. Uh, I talked about how the little figure down here with a crown on top gives me a reference to the Queen. We've got the horse and the other O character with the frilly neck garment. This is all very British, these three items that are over here. We also have an interpretation on the other side from these three picture frames. I noted how the letter G looks more like the number 2, and they've drawn emphasis to it being the only character that is drawn in sort of like a handwriting sketch sort of way, where the others are in color and bold. We've also got attention drawn to the L, the only letter that is not inside a frame. Also, I mentioned that the L could represent the 50th, the Roman numeral 50. I took that because it's sitting on top of what looks like a cake, so I assumed something like a 50 or 52nd anniversary of something, which I'm still researching to find out if there's anything connected to maybe a 52nd anniversary coming up or 50th anniversary coming up for something, maybe associated with the UK or with um, Washington in particular. The fact that they've drawn attention to these two characters by doing them slightly different from the others makes me think of December 2nd, which I have as a watch date. And I pointed that out in the previous video, but I'm not going to do so in this one. Just takes too much effort to be switching around uh, frames on my phone. It's not as simple as clicking here and there. The other thing I mentioned was the fact that they've got the E over here, which is the fifth letter of the alphabet. So drawing attention to the number 5. That could be, as mentioned before, L representing the 12th letter of the alphabet, as well as the number 50 on Roman numerals. But looking at it as the 12th letter of the alphabet, you've got December 2nd, and then potentially a time, 5 o'clock. Otherwise, you've got the other date I'm looking at, which is 12, 2, and 5, which is obviously December 25th, Christmas Day. We've got the eclipse coming up the next day, and various things to watch out for around that time. However, putting all that together, you've got this reference to UK kind of memorabilia or UK items, and obviously a connection to the word go emphasized with GOO, and then on the other side a potential date where they've made the G look like a 2, given an emphasis to the L, which could be a signal for the number 12, so a possible reference to 212. Over here that's UK format, that's the 2nd of December. Just go backwards for the United States format, which is 12/2 December 2nd. As I said, could be December 25th, including the E, but I'm thinking maybe a time in that reference. I've talked about a time and a potential terrorist attack which could be blamed on Iran happening around 5 o'clock because that's rush hour, and that would involve TfL, the Transport for London network, and potentially buses and trains being involved in some sort of terrorist attack. I did report maybe 2 years ago about the UK holding an operation in case of a biological attack, and that was at an Israeli embassy. And obviously, if that was the case, then the likely culprits that they would blame it on would be Iran. However, you then have the second way of interpreting the Google Doodle image, which is to flip it upside down, which I do quite often with these Google Doodles. If you draw a line straight across here, just for a little bit of simplicity, what you've got below is a reflection in the water, and above, a building that is missing its top. All the trees now become pillars of green smoke coming up out of the building, and in the middle, the statue in the image, when it's the right way round, now becomes like a crack in the building, a hole in the building, the top of the building, and out of it there's the funnel shape encompassed by a larger funnel shape, which gives me the connection to a nuclear detonation. It's that funnel mushroom cloud type shape, but the sky is now green with grey wisps of smoke in it, which gives me a connection to something toxic or biological. And considering the number 5 with the 12 to 5, if 5 is a time, in my previous video where you guys are complaining about the sound, I switched it to the iPet Goat 2 video with the lady in the tower with the tally marks of 5 behind her. Now, I also interpreted that those tally marks could be the word HIV, and that would come under biological. So if there's some sort of connection to a biological attack coming from this Google Doodle around this date with that time, it's possible that it could be connected to what the iPet Goat 2 video is saying. 5 o'clock, maybe something to do with HIV, maybe a weaponized version of the disease. So I think that's basically what I was saying. The other connection that I found potentially to the UK is that the 200 that they have here, when it's the right way around, looks to me like a 007, which is kind of like, you know, the British spy thing. And obviously with the scene below it, where I believe I'm seeing pillars of green smoke coming up out of a destroyed building, which possibly sits on the bank of a river. If that's the case, then that really leads me to Parliament and Westminster Abbey. The building is a long building like this. It sits on the River Thames. Obviously, we've got the crown and the potential for that to be the Queen reference. The 3 other parts, the 3 other images that give me a connection to memorabilia from the UK. The 007 reference connecting me to the UK. And I'm going to research, but something potentially with a 50th anniversary, 52nd anniversary, or 50, or would that be 55th anniversary? If it's the 2 together, then it also could be the 57th anniversary. But starting with the 50, something with UK, 50th anniversary of something, 007, potentially the Westminster building, sitting on the River Thames where the water reflects that building, the crown and the queen, the horses, you know, they like to do their kind of dressage and all that kind of stuff. This neck collar, very Henry VIII kind of times, Tudor times, a very British kind of thing. Aside from the British connection, as I said, it also has a possible resemblance to the White House. It could be the Capitol building. So, warning for all of those. As I said, biological, chemical, potentially nuclear. Potential date of December the 2nd, in my interpretation, with the L and the 2, or December 25th with the 2 and the 5 together. Bearing in mind, if that side does give us a date connection with these 3, then this side is maybe giving us items which connect to a location, such as the UK, but also spelling out the word go, emphasized with an extra O. In the previous video, I also remarked that having the word go on one side and a potential date of December 2nd could mean that the event takes place on December 3rd, the next day, and this is a warning to leave the day before. If that's the case, then I believe there is a NATO meeting on the 3rd of December over here in the UK, in which case heads of state will be here, like Donald Trump, for example. You know how it goes with these NATO meetings. If something was to take place around Westminster Abbey, where they could potentially be having their NATO sessions, and it involves, biological, nuclear, or chemical attack, a series of them. I'm assuming this isn't all coming out of one building. They've got various columns of green smoke here, which are the green trees on the right way around. So it could be a series of attacks around London during the NATO meeting, in which case there's a potential for world war. And the likely culprit they'll blame it on is Iran. They really want to get into Iran. I think especially since Iran just announced that they found 50 billion dollars or barrels worth of oil in a new reserve. So yeah, I'm guessing a lot of organizations, companies, and people want to get their hands on that, as well as getting Iran out of the way for other reasons. We know it's planned. They've been stepping up towards it all year, not for the last couple of years, but especially in this year. We saw a lot of things happening with Iran, drones being downed, ships being taken, ships being claimed to have missiles fired at them. So we're well on the path to that. We're coming up into December. December 2nd, potential watch. December 25th, definite watch. If it is December 25th, it's closer to December 31st, which would connect with the iPet Goat 2 video, where I've talked about the number 31 in the clouds above the Osama bin Laden figure for the longest time. And as November doesn't have a 31, we're either looking at the 13th of December or the 31st of December. As I say, if an event like this takes place on December 25th, Christmas Day, obviously NATO won't be here, so that theory would go out the window, but we would be closer to December 31st, and that would have more connections with the iPet Goat 2 video as well. That is pretty much what I was saying in the previous video. Obviously, there's not as much ability for me to connect you with the other things I was talking about, like the iPet Goat 2 video, for example, but I'm just hoping that you guys are familiar enough with that video to understand what I'm saying when I'm talking about the tally marks behind the old lady in the tower, and to, just follow me in that sense. You guys have a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and did I say that right? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.